Before the BP oil spill, the Gulf of Mexico had been one of the few bright spots in a dim picture of flattening global production. Because serious spills were rare, regulators and the oil industry appeared to behave as if they simply weren't possible. The BP spill is the subject of this week's Bloomberg Businessweek cover story. It hits newsstands today, and joining us now to preview the latest issue is Eric Pooley. He is deputy editor of Bloomberg Businessweek. Eric, always glad when you stop by. Now, we do know that one of the 3 leaks has been contained. That happened on Wednesday. But I mean, we're still really in a precarious situation for the disaster, and now oil drilling is in a politically precarious situation.
Well, this comes at a really tough time for the oil industry because they were poised to move into a new era of expanded exploration and drilling, not just in the Gulf, but off the east coast of the U.S. Opposition among Democrats had dropped. Obama was in favor of it. And suddenly this happens, and people are asking, is this safe? There's a new chorus among the Democrats to halt all offshore exploration. So we, in the story we call Lessons of the Spill, we're looking at what does it really mean for the future of the industry, and can this be made safe? What went wrong?
You talk a lot about some of the engineering feats, which is really an interesting read. I mean, just from a mechanical perspective about the cement, about some of the containment measures. But you say maybe one of the lessons from this is the fact that maybe not everything was quite as ready as it could have been in the event of some of these major mechanical mistakes.
Well, it'll be a couple of months, I think, before we know everything that happened. But there are early indications that human error was involved here, and also that overconfidence and even hubris were at play. And here's what I mean. The evidence is clear over the years that the last line of defense, known as the blowout preventer, doesn't work very well. In a 2002 laboratory test by the federal government, it failed in half of the tests, 3 of 6. 7 manufacturers declined to take part in the test. So this is what we're putting our faith in, and frankly, it doesn't work very well. Other oil-producing countries also use backup systems, wireless remote fail-safe switches that we never bothered to put in place here. We've had huge spills in the past. We know this can happen. In 1979 in Mexico, Brown and Root created something called the iron sombrero, which they placed over the spill. Now, that's exactly what they're doing now. Why didn't they have one of those fabricated and waiting? Why are we having to take 3 weeks after the spill to put it in place?
So, Eric, as you mentioned, we're going to be looking at that over the next few months. But the larger context here is that all the easy oil in the world has been found. So there is more pressure, even political pressure, to avoid, for example, $4 per gallon gasoline, at least in the U.S. Find more oil. BP is at risk here, too. I mean, Tony Hayward, you guys met with him. I mean, he's obviously haggard and says his whole job over the next 3 years is to help people forget this.
We spent time with Hayward. He's at the center of the storm, obviously. And, yeah, he makes no bones about it. The CEO pose of control.
Of BP, we should mention.
Yeah, the CEO of BP, excuse me. Every CEO likes to have the pose of absolute control. Tony Hayward is not having any of it. He's saying, this is tough. I'm going to spend the next 3 years of my life trying to make this right.
All right, I want to shift gears. So that's the cover story. Great reporting, and especially I like all the engineering details that are hard to talk about, but very interesting to read. Google, you have a story on that, kind of having its market share threatened by Microsoft's Bing, by Facebook and Twitter. What is Google doing about it? How worried does that company have to be?
Well, Businessweek got a ringside seat for the 8th redesign of Google's search results page. Now, this is the heartbeat.
It's great, because that's pretty unusual to actually have reporters allowed into the lion's den.
It's very, very unusual. And let's put it this way. Google gets 97% of its revenues, and that's $23.7 billion in revenues last year, from advertising. So making the most minute change in this is a big deal. What they needed to do was retain that simplicity while getting into real-time search so that we can track social media and everything that's happening so quickly on the web. They needed to update this baby, and they did.
For anyone who is interested in the inside culture of Google, I highly recommend the article. Eric, thank you very much. Eric Pooley joining us there from Bloomberg Businessweek.